Do you know that strange, frustrating moment when you're doing everything right, but the results never show up? You've read all the best-selling manifestation books. You meditate daily, close your eyes and visualize the dream house, the love you're longing for, or the career you desire. You repeat affirmations like sacred mantras. Sometimes you even add more tracking moon cycles, performing rituals, adjusting every detail of your routine just to make sure you're staying high vibe. And yet, the shift you're waiting for, the so-called quantum shift, never seems to arrive. Or if it does, it flickers for a brief moment like a fragile flame, only to vanish, leaving you confused, disappointed, and drained. And then you think, maybe I'm not doing enough. Maybe I should try harder. So you double your effort. You wake up earlier, meditate longer, journal more intensely. You add new techniques, new strategies, new routines. You push yourself into a cycle of constant doing, believing that effort is the only way to reach breakthrough. But the harder you try, the more it feels like chasing smoke. The faster you run, the farther it drifts away. The tighter you grip, the more it slips through your fingers. Perhaps deep down inside, there has been a small but powerful whisper asking, why is it that the harder I try, the further I feel from what I want? Could it be that there's something no one has told me yet? Here's the truth. Almost nobody tells you in the quantum world. Effort is not power. Energy is power. Think of it this way. The quantum field, the universe itself, doesn't care how many tasks you check off in a day. It doesn't measure you by the length of your to-do list. The only thing it listens to is the signal you transmit. And that signal doesn't come from what you do, but from who you are while you do it. You could meditate for an hour every morning. But if you meditate from the energy of fear, thinking, I have to do this so things will get better, then the signal you send out is not peace, but lack. You could affirm, I am wealthy 50 times a day. But if your body is tight, your chest is heavy, your heart is racing with worry, then the frequency you're broadcasting isn't wealth, it's fear. This is why some people seem to do everything right, yet nothing works, while others appear to do very little, and yet opportunities, love, and abundance flow effortlessly into their lives. The difference doesn't lie in the number of actions. It lies in the quality of their frequency. And here's the paradox sometimes. Doing less actually creates more. This idea might sound completely opposite to what the 3D world has taught you. Out there, society glorifies busyness. Hustle culture is celebrated. Success is equated with sweat and sacrifice. But in the quantum reality, hustle often signals misalignment. Because when you're truly aligned, you don't need to overcompensate. Your energy naturally becomes clear, efficient, magnetic. So pause for a moment and ask yourself, am I overexerting just to prove something? Am I doing more, yet feeling less at peace? If the answer is yes, that's a sign you're pushing against yourself instead of flowing with life. In the next segment, I'll tell you a story about a woman named Elena who tried everything, pushed herself to the limit, and yet remained stuck until the moment she decided to stop. And it was in that very act of surrender that her breakthrough finally arrived. Let me tell you about Elena. She isn't just a fictional character, she represents so many of us who step onto the spiritual path, trying every tool, every practice, yet still find ourselves stuck in the same loop. Elena was deeply committed. Every morning, she woke up early. She began her day by journaling, writing down her gratitudes, her intentions, her desires. She meditated faithfully, practiced breathwork, played special frequency music, and visualized her dream life in vivid detail. She did this day after day, like a well-wound clock. But month after month, nothing seemed to change. She was still stuck in the same financial cycle, still struggling at her job, still waiting for a breakthrough that never came. The more she tried, the more tired she felt. The harder she worked at her practices, the more drained she became. Then one morning, it all became too heavy. Elena closed her journal, set down her pen, and simply cried. She sat in her small room, tears streaming down her face, not even trying to hold them back. For the first time in weeks, she didn't try to force herself into positivity. She didn't try to raise her vibration. She didn't try to control her reality. She just sat there breathing, weeping, allowing herself to be. And in that moment, something shifted. Not in the outer world, but within her. Elena suddenly felt lighter. A space opened inside her, a space not crowded with effort, not stuffed with pressure, not filled with the desperate need to make things happen. It was simply peace. Peace. Not because her circumstances had changed, but because she had stopped resisting what was. And then, something remarkable happened. The very next day, Elena received an email, a job offer from an old friend. Out of the blue, an opportunity perfectly aligned with what she had been longing for. It came unexpectedly, without being part of her plan, without being the result of all those rituals she had exhausted herself with. It came in the moment she stopped. Now, this may sound like magic, but it's not. It's mechanics. Only when Elena released her resistance and let go of control did her energy truly shift. She stopped broadcasting the frequency of lack and started transmitting the frequency of peace. And the quantum field simply mirrored that back. Do you see? Doing less isn't laziness, it's wisdom. It's the moment you acknowledge that you don't need to control everything. You don't need to hold life in a clenched fist. Because when you loosen your grip, the universe finally has the space to place something in your hand. Think about your own life. Have you ever had a moment like Elena's? You tried everything. You pushed and pushed. Yet nothing worked. And then, when you were too tired to fight anymore, you let go, and what you'd been chasing showed up effortlessly. That wasn't coincidence. That was coherence. And this is the lesson Elena offers us. What you long for doesn't come when you're straining and grasping. It comes when you allow. It doesn't arrive when you're proving yourself. It arrives when you are present with what is. In the next segment, we'll uncover the science behind this. Why does surrender carry so much power? Why does peace create more results than effort? The answers lie within the mechanics of the quantum world, where your very consciousness acts as the pen that writes reality itself. Have you ever wondered why Elena's moment of surrender carried such power? Why did peace, not effort, open the door to change? This isn't just a poetic idea, it has a very real foundation in science, rooted in the mechanics of the quantum world. In quantum physics, there is a phenomenon called the observer effect. It shows us that a particle doesn't exist in a fixed state until it is observed. Before that, it exists as a probability wave in infinite range of possibilities. But the moment it is observed, the energy of attention collapses the wave into one single reality. In other words, your consciousness doesn't just watch reality, it chooses reality. So, what determines which possibility becomes real? The energy you hold while observing. If you focus on your future with doubt, fear, or lack, then that's the signal the quantum field receives, and that is the version of reality that collapses into form. You can affirm I am abundant 1,000 times, but if your body is tense, your heart is racing, and your stomach is tight, what you're really broadcasting is survival, not abundance. Think of yourself as a radio transmitter. Every thought, every emotion, every sensation in your body sends out a frequency into the field, and the quantum field, like a giant cosmic scanner, is always reading your signal. If you transmit lack, it reflects lack. If you transmit peace, it reflects peace. This is exactly what happened with Elena. For months, she was doing the practices, but her true signal was anxiety. Why hasn't it happened yet? What else do I need to do? The field mirrored that back: more waiting, more lack. But the moment she released control, her breath softened, her body relaxed, her frequency shifted, and the quantum field responded immediately with a new opportunity. Science backs this up. Research from the HeartMath Institute has shown that when the rhythms of the heart become ordered and coherent, the brain synchronizes with it. This state is called heart-brain coherence. When this happens, people experience greater mental clarity, emotional stability, and heightened intuition. In other words, when you're at peace, you literally become a clearer channel for guidance and for possibility. Think of the difference between two radio stations. One is full of static, distorted, noisy, hard to hear. The other is crisp and clear. Which signal will the field respond to more easily? Of course, the clear one. That's why you don't need endless affirmations. You don't need rituals upon rituals. What you need is a clean signal, a state of inner coherence. So how do you achieve that clean signal? The answer may be simpler than you expect: presence. Because presence is the only place where the quantum field can hear you. The past is gone. The future hasn't yet arrived. The only access point is the now. Most people spend their lives trapped in fragments of memory or projections of fear. They're mentally 2 steps ahead or emotionally stuck 6 months behind. Very few are here, yet only here, in this living moment. Does reality actually collapse into form? Pause with me for a moment. Feel your breath moving in and out. Notice your body resting against the chair or touching the ground beneath you. In this simple act of awareness, your frequency becomes clearer than any mantra you could repeat. Because the field doesn't just listen to words, it listens to energy. And that energy is purest in the now. In the next segment, we'll go deeper into what it means to do less, but in the right rhythm. You'll see how one aligned action, taken from presence, carries the force of a laser beam in the quantum field, far more powerful than 1,000 scattered steps. This is the art of coherence in motion. In the last segment, we explored why presence is the key to a clean signal. Now let's go deeper into a paradox that feels almost counterintuitive sometimes. Doing less actually achieves more. From the moment we were children, the outside world has praised busyness. Society glorifies the hustle. We grow up hearing that success belongs to those who work the hardest, sacrifice the most, and run the fastest. Hustle culture paints exhaustion as a badge of honor, as if burning out is proof of worth. But in the quantum reality, this logic collapses. Because here, action itself is not power. Aligned action is power. One aligned step taken from peace, clarity, and inner coherence can create an impact far greater than 1,000 actions taken from fear, doubt, or desperation. The difference isn't in how much you do. It's in the state of being you act from. Think of it like light. A flashlight spreads in all directions, dim and unfocused. But a laser beam, though much smaller in surface area, is so concentrated that it can cut through steel. That's the difference between scattered hustle and aligned precision. Elena learned this lesson firsthand. For months she thought, maybe I need another ritual. Maybe I need to meditate longer, script more, try harder. But the more she did, the more her energy scattered. Nothing landed. Only after she tasted the stillness of surrender did she realize she didn't need to do everything. She just needed to act from clarity. And when she did, the smallest steps began creating the biggest results. You may have experienced this too. Think about the best ideas you've ever had. Did they arrive while you were forcing yourself to think harder? Or did they come while you were relaxed in the shower, on a walk, sitting quietly in stillness? That's not coincidence. That's coherence. When you stop pushing, the noise quiets and the signal clears. This is why doing less doesn't mean being passive. It means acting selectively, with precision. It means letting go of frantic motion and waiting until the next step feels true, not pressured. So how do you recognize when an action is aligned? The answer lies in your body. Before you act, tune in. Does your body feel tight, rushed, contracted? Or do you feel open, light, and steady? Aligned action carries a sense of calm certainty. It doesn't feel like pressure. It feels like yes. And this isn't just spiritual philosophy, it's biology. Neuroscience shows us that when your nervous system is regulated, your body enters what researchers call a state of safety. From this state, your brain functions more clearly, your intuition sharpens, and your decisions align with long-term truth rather than short-term fear. In this state, your actions cut through like lasers. Think about it. Sometimes the decision that changed everything for you was actually small. A single phone call. A simple conversation. A step that seemed ordinary but opened an entirely new path. That's the power of aligned action. So instead of asking, "What more should I do?" try asking, "What can I release? Can I wait until the signal feels clear before I move?" Because one step from alignment can move you further than 100 from anxiety. This is the art of doing less, but in rhythm with the field. And now, in the next segment, we'll turn to something even deeper: your desires. Because not all desires are equal. Some come from fear, comparison, or compensation. But others, the true ones, come from your soul's blueprint. And when you learn to tell the difference, you'll see why chasing often delays manifestation, and why surrendering is sometimes the fastest way home. We've spoken about aligned action, but there's something even more fundamental we need to explore. What are you acting toward? Because not all desires are created equal. Some desires are surface level, born from comparison, from old wounds, or from society's pressure. And others are deeper, like whispers of the soul, guiding you toward the life you were meant to live. Think about it. Have you ever wanted something only because someone else had it? Maybe it was a car, a title, a house, and somewhere inside you, a voice whispered, "If I had that, people would finally respect me. If I reached that level, I'd finally feel worthy." That's the kind of desire born from fear of lack, from the ego's need to prove itself. But there are other desires, and they feel completely different. They aren't loud. They don't rush you. They don't scream for attention. They feel like a soft melody playing quietly within you, steady and patient. It might be the dream of creating something meaningful, of living freely, of contributing in a way that lights you up. These desires don't come from pressure. They come from your soul. They are frequencies already encoded in you broadcasting, calling you forward. Elena learned this the hard way. For a long time, she believed that making more money or owning more things would make her feel valuable. But the more she chased, the more empty she felt. It was only when she surrendered, when peace returned, that a deeper truth surfaced. She realized she didn't actually want wealth just for its own sake. What she truly longed for was freedom, meaning, and the ability to share her abundance with others. That was her soul's desire, not her ego's. So how do you know which kind of desire you're holding? The answer lies in your body. Desires born from the ego usually feel urgent, restless, pressured. They push you to act fast, to chase, to prove. Desires born from the soul feel completely different, Tom. Grounded, certain. They don't demand. They hum. They echo. They feel like resonance rather than pressure. And here's why this matters in the quantum field. When you chase a desire born from lack, the signal you send out is, I don't have it yet. I'm separate from it. And the quantum field, which only mirrors energy, reflects that same experience back to you, more waiting, more separation. But when you recognize that a true desire is already a soul signal within you, you stop chasing. Your job shifts from acquisition to alignment. Imagine desire like a radio frequency. The broadcast is already happening. You don't need to build a new tower. You just need to tune in. The problem is, most people keep twisting the dial every 5 seconds, jumping stations out of panic, never staying long enough to lock into the signal. But the real practice is presence, patience, and stability. And here's the powerful lesson. You don't have to chase your true desires. You only have to become the frequency that matches them. When you do this, something mystical happens. You stop waiting for the future. You start living as though it's already here. You walk differently. You think differently. You make decisions as if you already are the version of yourself who has it. And in that embodiment, the field has no choice but to respond. Elena discovered this shift, and so can you. In the next segment, we'll explore the part most people overlook: the body and the nervous system. Because you can think correctly, you can desire correctly, but if your body doesn't feel safe receiving, it will unconsciously block the shift. And this is the key to making your quantum leap not just temporary, but sustainable. We've explored presence, aligned action, and soul-level desire. But there's one more essential layer that often gets ignored: your body. You can think the right thoughts. You can affirm the right words. You can even touch moments of peace in meditation. But if your nervous system still doesn't feel safe, it won't let you hold on to change. This is why so many people practice spirituality for years, yet fall back into the same patterns. It's not because they lack belief. It's because their body hasn't yet learned to trust. Think of your nervous system as the gateway between your inner state and the quantum field. It constantly broadcasts, am I safe or unsafe, open or closed, expanded or contracted. If your body is in fight, flight, or freeze, the frequency you're sending out is, I am not safe, I am not ready. And the field, neutral but precise, reflects that back not as punishment, but as coherence. This is something Elena had to face as well. Even after she surrendered and touched peace, there were days when old patterns resurfaced. Her chest tightened whenever she thought about money. Her stomach clenched when bills arrived. She affirmed, I am abundant. But her body whispered, I'm still afraid. and the field responded to the body's signal. The solution wasn't to do more rituals or force stronger affirmations. The solution was to create new safety for her body. Elena began practicing slow, deep breathing. She placed her hand on her heart and whispered, "It's safe to step into this new timeline." Little by little, her body softened, her nervous system recalibrated. And as safety took root, her energy became consistent. The signal she broadcast was no longer survival, but trust. Here's the secret most people miss if the body doesn't believe. The mind cannot hold. True quantum shifts require nervous system alignment. That means teaching your cells that love is safe, that wealth is safe, that rest is safe, that success won't cost you your peace. When your body finally relaxes, you can receive what you've been asking for and keep it. This is the ultimate integration. Quantum change is not about adding more force. It's about removing resistance, less pushing, less bracing, less grasping. What remains is space, and in that space, the field can respond. Remember, the universe isn't impressed by how hard you hustle. It doesn't count the hours you meditate or the number of affirmations you write. It listens only to your coherence, your state of being right now. And coherence is strongest not when you're performing or pretending, but when you are at peace. So ask yourself, where in my life am I still gripping, forcing, doubting? And what would happen if I loosened my hold? If I let my body feel safe enough to rest? Because the paradox of manifestation is this: when you finally stop proving, you start receiving. Elena learned that lesson, and now it's your turn. You don't need another technique. You don't need more effort. You need presence. You need safety. You need alignment. When you embody that, you don't just manifest your future, you become it. And when you become it, the quantum field has no choice but to align. This is the essence of the quantum shift. Not doing more, but being more. Not pushing harder, but trusting deeper. And from that trust, reality unfolds with a grace you could never have forced into being.